Good evening, and welcome to our second episode of Be Well, Be Whole. My name is LaRonda Little,
And I am Emmanuel Lati.
and this evening we are going to be talking about engaging the stuff, abuse, manipulation, and bullying in the context of social media. Before we get started, it is important for us to say that the subject matter in this discussion may be triggering for some.
Yeah, it really is a tough subject matter. So be sure to take care of you and pay attention to anything that will be upsetting or that might cause you some distress. So we can attend to it together because we recognize that this is not an easy subject to actually deal with, but we really do need to talk about these things.
Thank you, Dr. Larte. So the first thing we want to talk about is who does this affect? Who does this affect? This bullying and manipulation, even mind control, words that come to mind. Who does this affect?
And the perhaps the troubling thing is that this affects everyone. None of us, especially in these days when we are, all of us are sort of pressed into the social media context for everything, for communication, for information, for engagement. We are, in a sense, every one of us is subject to manipulation, abuse, and threats, subtle and not so subtle, um, through the various avenues of social media.
Mm-hmm.
Our younger people, particularly, seem to be the focus of this, but political manipulation
Yes.
going on, and all of us, anyone who interacts with social media, which practically means a large number of us,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is subject to these kinds of abuse.
And you're right. The manipulation can be very subtle. People jokingly talk about, when we search for a pair of shoes or a purse or a vacation spot. Now, all of a sudden, the advertisements or advertisements on social media are for the thing that you've searched. This also happens with online dating.
Mhm.
Online dating services keep track of
Right.
how long you're on line, the type of person you're engaging with.
Right.
Um, if you happen to go online late at night, these companies even track you and how long you stay engaged with these. But you're absolutely right. Our young people are particularly affected by this because of their innocence,
Mhm.
and they really seem to be unaware that this machine is manipulating them, and then their friends grab hold to this device and begin to manipulate and bully one another. All of the gaming systems. My sons have PlayStation, and every app that they engage with um, has a chat feature. And
Mhm.
every time they log on, somebody knows. And that's a scary thing when you think about it.
Yeah, especially because there are predators um, who thrive on using these means to
Hmm.
actually control, direct, um, and in subtle ways abuse us,
Right.
and also sometimes in very explicit ways threaten and uh, heighten, for some of us, heighten the anxiety that we are experiencing in the face of all what is going on around us. That anxiety becomes the avenue by which manipulation happens. You know, because threats are always related to that which will cause you harm,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
that which might cause you harm. And so fear, anxiety, uh, these are the kind of the very material. These are the media by which this happens.
And these tracking devices are also they have this insidious way in which they analyze personality. So there are certain behaviors that pick up on features such as low self-esteem,
Mhm.
anxiety, our study habits, all of that,
Depression,
depression.
um,
Right.
you
Mm,
know, and that's that there's a kind of addictive quality
yes.
that is associated with these media, and this is what is exploited. You see, because we are glued to, or we are addicted to, um, we can be subject to the predatory manipulations
Hmm.
that can lead us to self harm, actually, which is quite a huge thing. You know, there are so many different ways in which people um, how we harm ourselves. You know, cutting, scratching, burning. You know, hitting, punching, piercing. These can all go on. You know, as we are goaded on by these some of these sites that we engage.
Right.
um, and so yeah, so that these are some of the ways in which um, we do harm to ourselves,
Hmm. Hmm.
goaded on and threatened, and utilizing our emotional distress, uh, or our depression or our anxiety in ways that are quite damaging to ourselves.
Hmm. And these things also affect how we engage with others. So if your teenager or you have been on social media or have been watching the news or have watched yet another video of a person of color, a black man or a black woman being killed on the street, when we shut our devices down and when we engage with the next person, it could be a family member, it could be the store clerk outside of our home, our behavior has been affected by these images
Mm.
that we see over and over again.
Yeah.
And so then um, I think it's important for us to take note of that,
Mhm.
take note, become more aware of how we are affected when we have been so closely engaged with social media, and it doesn't even have to be social media. It could just be working.
Yeah.
Many of us, clergy, students, uh, during this time, we are glued to our screens far more. It was a lot before, but now our screen time has increased exponentially. So we have to be more intentional about our screen time.
And yeah, and so it's so important for us to recognize that our abuser could actually be the screen, certainly, and the that which we utilize to live, to communicate, and so on, could actually be the thing that is used to do us great harm.
Yeah.
And so I think it's very important to be able to name that, to recognize that, to actually um, talk about the harm that may be coming to us,
Yeah.
you know, and the manipulation that may be going on,
Mm-hmm.
because these things thrive on secrecy.
Yes.
You see, so there's the sort of private sphere, me and my screen, nobody else knows.
Hmm.
And that actually is how abuse happens, in other contexts.
Right.
We're shut in to a home, or we are shut into a space, uh, and sometimes the abuser is physically shut in with us.
That's right.
um, Now in this case, we are shut in with the screen, and so abuse, manipulation can happen because this is a private space and it's secret, nobody else knows about it. And
Which,
that's how.
which is closely, when you say that, it's closely associated with feelings of shame.
Right, right, right.
Silences us when things happen.
And so that's why I would say it's so important to blow the
Blow the cover.
yeah, blow the cover. That's right. And talk about it, and recognize, hey, I am being sucked in. I'm being driven along a certain path.
You
Yeah.
know, and I'm thinking about our children, our teenagers, our your grandchildren. Um, what does secrecy mean? What does privacy mean when we are, as far as our children are concerned? I can say personally, secrecy is a bad word in our house. I as far as is reasonable, I realize that we all need privacy. We all need privacy, but where my children are concerned, they have their devices, but I do random phone checks, and they have no idea when I might say, let me see your phone, or when I may walk and look over their shoulder and see what they're doing on their computer screens. So there is a difference between secrecy and privacy. Mhm.
And I think it's important that parents and others who have responsibility for people who are underage, so to speak, who have the parental responsibility, or others, should not feel guilty doing what you've just been describing, because it's actually in the interests of safety and in the
Right.
interests of some things can become apparent only by that what may appear to be intrusion. Some things can actually be only exposed
Hmm.
through that means. And so those of us who have responsibility for children, grandchildren, others, and who want to help in their well-being, we want them to be well and we want them to be whole.
Indeed.
Then we have to get rid of the guilt that or the shame that prevents us from just being alongside them. I think it's important to see it more like being alongside them in protective ways,
Right.
and encouraging them to not have secrets, not have enclaves um, of privacy that
Hmm.
prevent them from being kind of. Sometimes a child may be being bullied or
That's
being
right.
manipulated,
Hmm.
and they are sucked into something, and it takes someone else to recognize and to help them to recognize. Sometimes you're not even aware that that's happening. So
Right.
it can actually help you to see. So it's important also to have that openness
Hmm.
to discuss some of these things.
Without shaming. And sometimes that's difficult to do, uh, to call out uh, different behaviors when there's a change in behavior. It sometimes it can be difficult to speak to that, to question it without also inciting, embarrassment. So that takes that's a very delicate matter, but we can't be fearful of it. Hmm.
I've been thinking about. There's a verse in the Bible that I love so much. It's in Second Timothy chapter 1 and verse 7, and it says, God has not given us a spirit of fear,
Hmm.
but of power, love, and a sound mind. And I sometimes say this to myself over and over again. Um, Fear is not the thing that we have been given. Rather, we've been given power,
That's
we've
right.
been given love, we've been given a sound mind. And so I call upon that power, I call upon that love, and I call upon that soundness of thought. So, in a sense, I draw on spirituality,
Yeah.
to inspire me to engage in wherever there is fear, wherever there is secrecy, wherever things are covered. I need courage to expose, courage to talk about, courage to name.
That's right.
And so I call upon that and say, I'm going to name this. It's difficult, it's embarrassing, it feels, intrusive, but I'm going to name it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh,
And as such, we have to realize too that there's no such thing as having gone too far.
mhm.
We're never um, dislocated
Right.
from grace. We're never dislocated from people, and we're certainly never dislocated from God.
Mhm. Mhm.
Never.
So it's never too late to engage, um, engage the stuff. It's never too late,
Never.
and and no one is too far gone.
That's right.
We can begin wherever we are, and we can engage wherever we are, and start. Don't find yourself bogged down with feelings of hopelessness
Right.
and helplessness, because that's precisely what bullying and abuse wants to produce within us: hopelessness, helplessness, and then a kind of dependency upon the abuser.
Right.
So it's never too late. You are never alone. It's never hopeless. There's always a way.
That's right. That's right. So if you have any questions, any concerns or comments, please feel free to reach out to a counselor, a therapist, if you need guidance on resources. You may reach out to myself or Dr. Larte in whatever platform, through whatever platform you watch this video on. We are here to help you. And where we can't help, we can find a source.
Yeah.
So reach out to us. And in the meantime, be well and be whole.
Be whole. Be whole.
Be whole. And next time we'll see you again.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you so much for being with us.